I have cut synthetic fabrics from my life completely, and every once in a while when I mention it, somebody's asking, hey, but what about the activewear? And I want to send this question back to you. What do you mean by activewear? Because if you mean the tightly fitted leggings, then the answer is no, you can't make them with 100% natural fibers. They just don't have the same elasticity as synthetic ones do. But if you're talking about activewear, as in clothes you can wear to be active, then absolutely you can make them with natural fibers. People have been exercising in all shapes and forms for centuries, long before the invention of polyester and nylon. Activewear doesn't have to be a second skin to be comfortable. Here is what I usually wear for exercises in summer. This is a sports bra. This is cotton linen blend, super comfortable, super breathable. A very simple t-shirt, again cotton linen blend, and my shorts are 100% cotton French terry. And before someone says it, no, I am not training for Olympics and I do not require any special activewear. I am exercising for myself, for my health, for my strength. Most of the time nowadays I exercise at home, but even if I were to go to the gym, I would wear the exact same stuff. And thinking back to my school PE lessons, I wasn't wearing synthetics either. I'm pretty sure it was cotton tracksuits or cotton shorts and t-shirts. So I genuinely don't see the issue. The purpose of activewear is to allow you move freely. For example, you can't exactly do deep squats or splits in 100% cotton jeans, can you? Because they're way too tight. But if you replace woven fabrics with knit fabrics, they do have a bit of natural stretch. That's first. And secondly, you can also choose a looser design. This also makes hell of a difference. Once again, the purpose of activewear is not to look like activewear. It's to help you move your body freely. You honestly don't need to overcomplicate it. If you want to stand in a plank, I haven't done plank for a while, any pair of shorts or t-shirt will do. And what I'm wearing right now is just an example of what you could make for your exercise routines. And the best part is that you can decide on the fit. How tighter or looser do you want your exercise wear to sit on you? If you're still asking, hey, do you have a pattern for that, every single time you see a garment that you like, then you are missing out on the most fun part of clothes making, designing the pattern. And it's so much easier than you think. Every single garment you can think of, tops or bottoms, doesn't matter, they start from the same place, a basic block. Obviously the blocks for tops and bottoms are different, but the basic principle kind of the same. It's not a pattern yet, it's basically a blueprint that determines how the garment will sit on you. What are the measurements of the person who will wear the garment? What is the ease that we're adding to those measurements? So translating into human language. If you buy a ready pattern, that pattern includes some sort of standard measurements which are not yours. So every time it doesn't work, it's not your fault. Your body was never included in it. Of course it doesn't work. Or every time you wonder how the fit would work, will it be too tight or too loose? That is determined by ease, and you can design those blocks with your measurements and your preferred ease. The t-shirt has this super simple boxy fit, it's very relaxed and oversized, while the bra is really tight next to my body and it offers me support. What's the difference? The blocks that I used to design both of them. Once you have your custom blocks and once you understand how to work with ease and change the fit of those blocks, you can design any garment you want and it will always fit you the way you want it to. So let me show you real quick how I designed all of these 3 garments using my custom blocks. How to make a pattern for the shorts. First, we're gonna copy the tops of our basic trouser blocks. Obviously, the length will depend on how long you want your shorts to be. I'm kind of going a little bit above the knee. You design the length of your shorts on your inner seams. You take the tape measure, put it on the rib, and you mark the same length on each side, front and back. So this is my new inner seam length. I love an A-line short, so I go ahead to my line before the hip depth, and I just extend it straight down this way, so it creates a nice and subtle A-line shape on each side. And now I put my ruler here, and the goal is to get to the 90-degree angle over here. So the hem on the shorts goes a little bit up this way. See here, I'm hitting 90 degrees. Doesn't matter which side you do first, back or front. And now I measure this length so that my side seams match, and do the same here. Nothing else changes. So you cut your pieces. First things first, you ignore your darts. Just exclude them. And in my case, because my hips are wider than my waist, I keep this entire length of the waist together with the cancelled darts. So all of it slightly wider to allow myself to get through the hips. And if you're making the super simple exercise shorts or maybe pajama shorts, you don't even need to have two separate pattern pieces for front and back. So we can cheat the system a little bit. So you go ahead and you copy this new shape as a whole. You don't have to do it as a separate pattern. You can just do it on the fabric if you have your shorts pattern. Just align them along the side seam. And then you have your grain direction along the side seam. But with jersey is not as crucial, so don't worry. Don't overthink it. Right, back, front. If this line gets a bit funny, you can just always correct it. Grain direction this way, and that's it. And then you just measure the length of this curve for the waist measurement. Obviously here it's on the angle. It won't be when you wear it. It will even itself out, okay? And the waistband is just a straight line and slightly wider than your elastic when folded. There you have it. That's your full pattern. So that's the full waistband. Obviously, you don't need to cut it from paper. You can just measure it on the fabric and you're done. So the only seams you will have will be the center front, center back, and the inner thigh seam. No side seams. So this is very easy and you can make them in an hour or so. This pattern excludes the option of the inseam pocket. If you want to have an inseam pocket, then you want to cut it out of 4 pieces. How to make a pattern for a simple boxy t-shirt. This is a simplified block where the bodice and the sleeve are one piece, and actually I don't even draw separate patterns for tops like this. I just use my block, which is cut out of harder cardboard, and just copy it right away onto the fabric. The only difference here is that I have 2 necklines. This one, higher one, is for the back and lower one is for the front. And in case of this t-shirt, I even cut it from one piece of fabric, so there are no shoulder seams. The only other detail I'm adding is the trim for the neckline. I'm measuring the entire circumference of the ready neckline, and depending on the stretch of the fabric, I will cut out a separate trim which will be 20 to 30% shorter than the full circumference of the neck, and that's it. That's the entire t-shirt pattern. How to make a pattern for a sports bra. The way I'm making sports bras is basically cropped tank tops, so I'll be using my blocks with negative ease. I have different blocks for different fabrics. It depends on the stretch of the fabric, and I design my blocks depending on the stretch of each individual fabric. Because the bra is made with knit stretchy fabric, it needs to be tight around the body, therefore we're using negative ease. For most natural fabrics it's about 20 to 40%. So I'm picking the correct blocks and design the pattern. First, I just copy my blocks onto the new pieces of paper. First, I need to decide how long or short I want my bra to be. The mistake to make is to cut it way too high up, so this way, because you need to keep in mind that your breast still needs to fit in, so there is no specific number. I actually cut it quite close to the waistline, because let's say if here is your breast, this line still needs to fit it in, so I don't go too low. Front and back, make it shorter. Then I also want to drop my armhole on both, and I can just do it something like this. And then I decide how I want my shoulder to be, and in this case I opted for having kind of a bit further away from the neck and also further away from the shoulder point, kind of in the middle, something like this. So this is my new shoulder. And now I can basically connect my points. So on the front here I connect the shoulder point with this underarm point. It's a nice curve. And then I also decide how deep I want my neckline to be. Here it's quite deep, somewhere here. Draw the nice shape. Same on the back. And in the back, I want to have a little bit of more like a sporty opening, but not too thin. So something like this, and drop down the neckline too, because I don't want it to be too tight, and I just cut it out. And that's it. That's my entire pattern. The only thing I did here, I made the front with double layers, so I have 2 pieces for the front just to offer extra support. And in terms of putting it together, I first connect my shoulder lines, then I measure the full length of my neckline and I add the trim, which is roughly, depending on the fabric, but is about 20 to 30% shorter than the full length of the neckline. Then I close the side seams and measure the length of this armhole and do the same exercise for the trim, so it brings the fabric together as it stays close. And underneath here, I'll be adding the trim, the length of the top, maybe slightly shorter, but the one thing that holds this thing together is inserting elastic inside. That's it. See how simple that was. And the interesting part is that once you stop thinking in categories, clothes become much more easy to design. And instead of asking what activewear is supposed to be, you start asking, what do I want from my activewear? And those two are very different questions. And that's exactly how I approach clothes making, not by starting with someone else's pattern or someone else's idea of what a garment should look like. But I start with a purpose. What do I want from this garment? And I design from there. And that's exactly what we teach at Arkdefo. We don't teach women how to recreate my wardrobe. We teach them how to design their own. Because once you understand the foundations, you are no longer limited to someone else's idea of what a garment should be. You can create exactly what you want and need for your body and your lifestyle. If that sounds interesting, you'll find all the information below this video. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next Friday.